My life has been a roller coaster of emotions, filled with moments of joy and sorrow. It all began when I was just 6 months old, and my parents were brutally killed by Fulani herdsmen on our farm. I was left alone, crying in the bush, but fate intervened when a kind couple, running from the same herdsmen, stumbled upon me. They took me in, they named me Purity, and I was raised as their own. As a child, I was treated like a queen, showered with love and affection. My adopted parents spoiled me rotten, and I felt like the luckiest child in the world. But everything changed when I was 8 years old. My adopted mother fell ill, and we spent 5 days in the hospital. She recovered, but her demeanor towards me shifted dramatically. On our way back home, she turned cold and distant. She started shouting at me for no reason, and I was confused and scared. When we got home, she moved me to a different room, and I was no longer allowed to sleep beside her. Her behavior became increasingly unbearable. I tried to make sense of it all, but I couldn't understand why she was treating me this way. I would plead with her to be happy, but she would just shout me away. As the days turned into months, her behavior worsened. She gave birth to a baby girl, and I was expected to take care of the child while she treated me like a house help. My adopted father would sometimes intervene, calling me softly and checking if I was okay. But I had to pretend to be happy, fearing my mother's wrath. She would often threaten me, saying that if I told my father about her behavior, I would go hungry. I suffered in silence, unsure of what I had done wrong. The day my father traveled, and I was locked out of the house for coming home late from school, was a turning point. I slept under the staircase, crying uncontrollably. My neighbor, a kind banker, heard my cries and took me in. She asked me what was wrong, and I broke down, telling her everything. That's when I discovered the truth. I wasn't their biological daughter. I was the child they had picked up from the farm after my parents were killed. The revelation shook me to my core. I cried my eyes out, feeling lost and alone. I refused to go back home until my father returned. When my father came back, I demanded to know the truth about my biological parents. He was devastated, knowing that my neighbor had revealed the secret. From that day on, I became withdrawn and depressed. I refused to eat or go to school, insisting that I wanted to find the family of my real parents. My adopted father apologized, promising that my mother would change. But she was just pretending, and I knew it. I started to bond with our neighbor, who became like a mother to me. She guided me and prayed for me, offering words of encouragement. As I grew older, my adopted mother's behavior towards me didn't improve. She was jealous of me, and I didn't understand why. When suitors started coming for me, she would divert them to her daughter, Nancy. It was a pattern that repeated itself, and I was heartbroken. One suitor, a rich man, married Nancy, but she forced me to marry a poor, blind man. I felt like I was being punished, but life had other plans. Nancy died after her husband killed her through domestic violence, and I was left to pick up the pieces. My husband, despite being blind, treated me like a queen. He loved me unconditionally, and I found happiness in our marriage. As my husband's wealth grew, so did our family. We had 2 beautiful children, and life was good. But my adopted mother's bitterness and frustration consumed her. She became jealous of my success and happiness. I decided to forgive her, bringing her and my father to Canada. But she repaid my kindness by trying to poison my food. My husband was devastated when he found out. We planned a trip back to Nigeria for Christmas, but this time, we left her behind. As we boarded the plane to Canada, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I had closed a chapter in my life, and it was time to move on. My adopted mother was left to ponder her actions, and I hoped that she would reflect on her behavior. I knew that forgiveness was a process, but I had to prioritize my own well-being. I couldn't let her toxic behavior consume me. My husband and children were my priority now. What do you think about Purity's decision to leave her adopted mother behind? Your advice is needed at the comment section.